friends, welcome back to Amy Bakes. I'm Amy, and today we are going to do an oldie but a goodie. We're going to reach into my family cookbook and we are going to do my mother's rum cake. So let's go over the supplies and ingredients that we're going to need today. For the cake, we are going to need 1 cup of chopped pecans or walnuts. We're going to use pecans today. We're going to need a yellow cake mix and a box of pudding. Now, sometimes I do things homemade and sometimes we take shortcuts. This is a shortcut day. We're also going to need 4 eggs, a half a cup of cold water, a half a cup of vegetable oil. The recipe says Wesson, but I use avocado oil. And then we're going to use half a cup of dark rum, 80 proof. For the glaze, we're going to need a stick of butter, a 1/4 cup of water, 1 cup of sugar, and some more of that Bacardi rum. And then we're also going to be using Baker's Joy to grease and flour our pan because we're going to use a bundt pan. It's so much easier to use this. So for the supplies today, we're going to be using our mixer with the paddle attachment. We're going to need a bundt pan, a saucepan, a couple measuring spoons. If you have a pastry brush, that's good. If not, don't worry about it. And then we're going to need, I'm using a skewer, but if you don't have a wooden skewer, you can also use a toothpick. Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. We're going to preheat the oven to 325. Then I'm going to take off my jewelry and put my hair in a ponytail and wash my hands. Okay, the first thing it says to do is to grease and flour your pan. And like I mentioned earlier, for a bundt pan, I actually just prefer to use the Baker's Joy because it is so much easier than trying to grease and flour. So we're going to take that shortcut. I reserve Baker's Joy for bundt pans. And we're just going to get that all the way up in there. And that looks pretty good. The next step is we're going to take our pecans and we're going to sprinkle them over the bottom of our prepared pan. Just mix them all in there, kind of try to evenly spread them around. There we go. The next step is going to be to assemble your cake ingredients. So for that, we're going to do 1 cake mix. That's my oven, y'all. It just reached temperature. It sings a little song. And then we're going to get 1 package of Jell-O vanilla pudding. This is the regular, not the sugar-free. So you're just going to get 1 of those. If you do use a cake mix that has pudding in the mix, you'll use a different recipe for this, and I will be sure to put that in the description for you. I'll do the one that we're doing here plus the one that you would use if you are doing the cake mix with the vanilla. I'm sorry, with the pudding. So we're going to have a half a cup of vegetable oil. And now we're going to get a half a cup of water and a half a cup of Bacardi rum. And we're going to put that in there. There we go. Whoopsie. And put that in there. And next we're going to do the eggs. Next, we're going to need 4 eggs. Now, these are farm fresh eggs. And at my last house, I had my own chickens, but we don't now. We haven't gotten set up with our hen house yet. So my neighbor does supply us with eggs and I supply him with homemade bread. So it's a pretty good trade. So anytime you're dealing with fresh eggs, you want to make sure that you float them first. So to do that, you have a pitcher with water and you drop your egg in there. If the egg is good, it will sink at the bottom. If the egg has gone bad because of the bacteria, it will float to the top. So you want to make sure that you float all of your eggs when dealing with fresh eggs. And then you want to clean them too because they've got that coating on there. And so you want to clean that off. Now, you don't want to just crack the egg directly into your mix because the floating is not 100% guarantee. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to crack each egg into a bowl separately and then move it over once you make sure that it's a good egg. I'm going to give this a good stir, and then we're going to put this in the mixer. Get that nice and mixed together. You can really smell that rum. Okay, that's probably good. Now we're just going to pour this over our nuts. I'll try to come around there. Y'all, my daughter's filming this. Remember, we are not a professional production by any means. I'm just a home baker. I'm not a professional. We're just having fun in the kitchen and cooking through some family recipes. My 15-year-old daughter does all my filming, and my 17-year-old son does all the editing and posting of the videos for me. So remember, don't expect professionalism. All right, so we're going to pour this over, and then we're going to put this in the oven. We're going to put this in the oven now. Whew, that's strong. Got our oven preheated at 325, and we're going to set that in there, and we're going to bake this for an hour. The next step is to make the glaze while that's baking. So what we're going to do is we're going to melt a stick of butter. Okay, you want to make sure that the saucepan that you use is large enough to give you some stirring room. You don't want to do it in too small of a saucepan, because it's when we add everything, it'll kind of splash around. So as I mentioned, this is a recipe that is in my family's cookbook, and this is one that my mom used to make. She did cakes. I think I've mentioned before. She did cakes and sold them when I was growing up, and this was one of her most popular cakes. She did a lot of them at Christmas time, but they're really good for any time of the year. I remember Mom used to tell me, now when you boil the alcohol, it actually boils the alcohol out. Well, I've looked that up, and that is actually a myth. It does not eliminate the alcohol when you boil it. With this particular one, there's kind of a fault in that anyways, because you don't boil the actual alcohol. So what you're going to do is you're going to melt your butter, and then you're going to add in a cup of sugar and a quarter cup of water. And you're going to bring this to a boil, and you're going to boil this for 5 minutes, and then you're going to add your rum. Now, while we're waiting for that to boil, I want to tell you, this is a really versatile recipe. Over Christmas, we tried it with peppermint rum chata, and we made a chocolate peppermint rum chata cake, and it turned out absolutely delicious. I will do a video on that one too, but I'll also put a picture so you can see what it looks like. But it's really delicious cake. So you can change the flavor. We want to try a pina colada one next. So this is this is your base recipe, and then you can just use your imagination and do all kinds of other recipes. Just follow the same basic ingredients, but change the flavor of your rum and the flavor of your cake mix and the flavor of your pudding. All right, that is about done there. Now that's 5 minutes, and be sure that you stir it constantly. Don't just walk away from it leaving that boiling. And see how thick that is? Look at that. All right, now we're going to stir in another half a cup of the rum. And remember when I said that there was a little flaw in that idea about when you boil it, it decreases the alcohol? Well, we boiled our mixture, and now we're adding our alcohol after, so it's not even boiling. So we're not cooking any of that alcohol out. Now we're going to stir that in really good, and then we're just going to, ooh, look at that. Man, that is strong. So then we're just going to get this, we're going to whisk it, make it nice and smooth, and then set this to the side, because we're going to use this on our cake after it comes out of the oven. Okay, it's been an hour. That looks beautiful. So now that we've got this out of the oven, I called my mom and told her that I was going to be making a rum cake. And she said, well, you know the secret to the rum cake, don't you? And I was like, well, follow the recipe? She said, no, you baste it with extra rum. So here it is. It's about a quarter of a cup-ish. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this skewer, And I'm going to poke holes in it here. And you're going to cool it like this for 20 minutes. But right now, I'm just going to get a little extra rum. And we're going to kind of baste it across the bottom of the cake. But you're just going to poke several holes. And then we're going to get that little bit of extra rum. Then we're going to invert it. Okay. So now y'all know the secret to a really good rum cake. All right, let's try that. So I'm going to use my pastry brush for that. So if you don't have a pastry brush, you can kind of just lightly pour it on there, but we're just going to use the pastry brush. Okay, now we're just going to flip that. We've cooled that for 20 minutes, and now we're just going to flip that. Get a good grip on here. There we go. Oh, oops, it slipped. Try that again. There we go. Ooh, look at that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to poke holes on the top part, just like we did on the bottom. And I didn't use quite all of the extra, so I've got a little bit more to go, and I'm just going to brush that on the top, and then we're going to put the glaze on. But first, we're just going to poke a bunch of holes in here and then add that little extra rum, because remember, that is the secret to the best rum cake, according to my mother. All right, now I'm going to poke a few more holes in there, and then we're going to add that glaze to the top. So I gave the glaze a good stir because it's kind of been sitting and waiting. So just pop that. Pop a few more holes through there. And now we're going to put the glaze on. I'm going to lightly pour it. Look how thick that is. And then I'm going to go back and brush it on there. While I'm doing this, I want to be sure and thank everybody. I know I've been off of YouTube, but for about a year now, we've been getting situated in the new house. But I want to thank y'all for continuing over this last year to look at the videos that I've done in the past, making your comments, sending me questions. I really do read every single question that you post and every comment. And I want to thank y'all for sending those in. And a special shout out to Deborah, who contacted me the other day and said such really sweet things about my videos and asked me if I was going to be starting back up or doing any more videos. And so, Deborah, as promised, I told you that I was planning to do that rum cake. So, as promised, Deborah, this one is for you. But I do sincerely thank you guys for continuing to watch my older shows and continuing to leave those comments. That means a lot to me. And I just want you to know, again, I do read every single comment and question. And if I don't know the answer to your question, I will do my very best to find it for you. So what I'm going to do is just continue to slowly pour this glaze over the cake. And you can kind of see it's kind of pooling inside in the center and pooling down around the bottom. Then about every 30 minutes, I'm just going to grab my pastry brush and come in and kind of pull it up and just rebrush the sides of that cake so that it can absorb all that in there. And I'm just going to check on that about every 30 minutes and do that. So here it is, guys, my family's secret recipe, I guess you could say, for the rum cake. It is delicious. You don't have to wait till Christmas. You can do this any time of the year. In fact, it make a great cake for Valentine's Day. And today is Friday. You could run to the store, get your ingredients, and make it for this weekend. But I do hope that you give this one a try. If you do, be sure and leave me a comment and tell me what you think about it.